Hello and welcome back another week. Some more League of Legends stuff, reactions, lore reactions, Necrit reactions. Well, that is actually what we're doing today, if the title didn't say that. Yes, we're back. We're looking at some lore. We're looking at Necrit covering some lore for us. So I, as an avid player, currently now, learn a heap more, so I'm very excited about that. Yes, last week we went on a bit of a divergence. I just wanted to try something different, try something fun, try something dumb. If anyone liked that video, I'm glad, but we're back to learn some more lore, and I'm very excited. I didn't really have any inkling of what lore to do this week, so I was looking through like a lot of different stuff, and I saw in Necrit's like lore playlist that he had different I just went through and I was like, do you know what, I'm just gonna pick, like, obviously if you have suggestions on this for like the next video, let me know, put some links below. I'd love to check them out. If I'm like, yes, they are good, I'll happily watch them. But I was like, I just want to pick some out that like I'm interested in. I kind of just picked the first like 4 that I saw, but there are a lot of like, who is this character, and like just like a detail on. I was like, that's what I really like. I love learning the like overarching lore and the world and everything, and I think that's so interesting, and we've done a lot of that. And now I kind of want to focus on like some like little overviews of the characters, learn more about each character, some that I know a lot about and really like, some that I don't know anything about, but these were just the first ones that came up. So today we're looking at who is Briar, who is Neferi, and who is Renetta Glask. And then I also saw one that was the lore of Aphelios' weapons, and I thought that just like looked kind of too interesting to pass up. And it's one of those characters that I know nothing about, and maybe it won't talk about him as much, but he's got all those weapons, like everything's happening, and I'm very interested. Before we get, if you'd like to skip straight to me reacting to that, go ahead. I always have the timestamps down below. I'm pretty sure they should work, because I waffle. So if you'd like to skip straight ahead, go on. I will not be mad about it, but I just thought I'd update you on my League gameplay. Nothing much has really changed. We're having a good time still. We're enjoying it. We're playing it a heap. The only thing that I thought was worth mentioning or talking about, it was just like a little funny. So basically, when I first started playing this game, when I watched Arcane, I only played like a couple of times, hated it, and never went back to it until like a couple of months ago, when my friends got into it. But I created an account and I, set the region to Oceania, because that is the region I live in, and I didn't really think of anything about it. And when I went to play with my friends, and I actually don't know what server we play on, but they were like, oh, don't do that one because like the queue times are longer. It was something about that, but we didn't play on it. I was like, oh, okay, like that's fine. When I first started playing, I had to like do all the tutorials again, which was probably good. The League tutorials leave a lot to be, they could teach you a lot more, because I had no idea what was going on. But so that happened, and that was a while ago, a couple of months. I played a lot, I've learned a lot, we've done a lot, we've experienced a lot together, and it's been great. But the other day I like logged onto my like Twitch Prime subscription, because I was like, I was wanting to get, you get like all the different loot for different games. I was like, I'm getting my Battle Pass tiers on Overwatch, I'll get the League thing. And I didn't think what they gave for League, I thought they just gave you a capsule, and I was like, oh, whatever, like I don't care about that, it's fine. And then I realized I like clicked on the drop down arrow, and they actually give you some good stuff, and I was like, what the fuck, I've been missing this the whole time. So obviously I quickly was like, get in-game content now. And then I read it and I was like, oh no, I fucked up. I sent it to my old account, the one that I started after watching Arcane, and I was like, shit, I sent all this stuff there, like I was so annoyed at myself, because, you just lose all this, like, content that you get for free, and I was, like, so sad. I was like, no, why did I do this? So I get to Googling, I was like, can I send gifts, like, how can I send things from one account to another? I like read it, I was like, okay, good. Like if I just get that account was on like level 3, I was like, get to level 10, you can send like gifts, and 15's RP. But I was like, oh, I'll just get to level 10 and I can send some stuff across like whatever random, or I could buy a skin with the RP that I have and then send that across. So I'm grinding out this other account randomly. Also felt great. I think maybe I was versing bots or slightly newer players because that account had not been played. I was like, I feel good at this game for what I was running. Also, it was horrible because it seemed like no one knew. The amount of games I played where my ADC didn't run down bot lane and just wandered off, and I was like, okay, so I'm not playing support, I'm just gonna play a second ADC. I was stomping some games on luck, so I was feeling pretty great about it. But I got the account to level 10 and I was like, yes, I can send some stuff across. Still won't let me send it to my other account. I was like, what's going on? I Google it again. I was like, why can't I do it? You cannot send stuff across regions. And I was like, why? Why am I so dumb? I should have known this. For some reason, it just like didn't even slightly occur to me that that would obviously be the case. And I was like, for a second, I was like, why can't you do that? And I get it because if you can send stuff across regions, you could like buy stuff in different currencies and it would be cheaper. It would be a whole whatever. It's annoying, but like I understand it, but I just felt so dumb with myself. So that was like my last week. It was all playing on a different account to try and get up to a level so I could send myself stuff and then it not work out. And I was so sad. I was just like, why did I do all this? But I also spent forever unlinking my Twitch Prime and like linking it to my other account. So hopefully next month I get the stuff. Anywho, that was just like a random story that I needed to get off my chest. If anyone sat through that, I'm glad. I hope you at least revel in my pain. Other than that, we should just get into these videos. Like and subscribe, that would be wonderful. And let's get into it.
Well, there it is. Another few months went by and League of Legends got a new story we can talk about.
Is this...
And surprisingly, despite the turmoil all
this
the
would be amazing.
Stirred, and despite the fact that many people had many different expectations...
If he is just summarizing all the stuff
overall,
that they write down...
her story is pretty good. As
I would love to know. I've learnt little bits and pieces.
Understand. And that's good. I'm pretty sure this is not supposed to be a complex character.
Okay.
What I like about this is that, as you'll see, all the teasers and cinematics are part of her story. However, there will also be some mentions of historical events, so just for the sake of context, for those of you who don't know much about League's lore, here is a super TLDR version of all you need to know.
On and off.
All of this is happening in Noxus, which is an empire that is all about conquering everything around them.
Yeah, they
for
love
many years,
spreading
Noxus
out.
was ruled by a tyrant called Borem Darkwill, who
Borem
was
Darkwill.
secretly manipulated by LeBlanc, one of the leaders of the Black Rose.
Really?
Black
okay,
Rose
cool.
basically being a secret organization that is dealing with dark magic.
Yeah.
With her whispers in his ear, Darkwill started making mad decisions.
Oh.
You know, invading surrounding nations, kidnapping children,
Oh.
with black magic, all that sort of things. And of course, he also started the invasion of Ionia.
Didn't hear a couple of things about those.
He sent Swain to the front lines to die, because he was strong enough to threaten his authority.
Oh,
so
shit.
when he returned from Ionia, he killed Darkwill, he took over Noxus, and established new leadership.
Okay,
all
cool.
Of this
Good job,
be
Swain, I
referenced
guess.
in Briar's story. And in
Yeah,
fact,
but
it begins
I think
while
Briar's
Darkwill
been
is
locked
still
up.
the leader of Noxus. So now,
Because I've seen the trailer.
Ado, let's jump into Briar's story. And let's read it word for word, because it's honestly not that long.
Really?
So,
okay.
Here we go.
Oh my god, I could have done this. Maybe I should have looked into this.
Darkwill entrusted the Black Rose and its many Hemomancer with creating a new
Blood
kind
Matcher.
of living weapon.
Blood
Unlike
magic,
their
correct?
previous experiments on the deceased, this would be a being born from and fueled by blood, one driven to hunt down targets without requiring the sustenance of food and water.
Like a vampire.
And so, Briar was born. Her creators
that's
wanted an
creepy.
assassin, but all she wanted was to eat, and eat.
Just
when her first
munch on
mission
people.
ended in a frenzied, gory failure.
Oh,
the
fuck.
Black Rose decided that Briar was too dangerous to use.
Yes,
but too
she's also
powerful
too
be
dangerous to
destroyed.
play against.
In order to control her, they devised a special pillory, locked by a Hemelith gemstone, to restrain her and focus her mind. Once shackled with the pillory, Briar, along with the rest of the Black Rose's living weapons, was quickly deployed during Jericho Swain's coup against Darkwill. She was given a handler to direct her, but when released,
A handler?
from the pillory,
What is she, like a
immediately
Pokemon?
Devoured him and everyone near her. Everyone
Interesting.
but her target, Swain, who escaped while the living weapon fed upon friend and foe. After an arduous capture, Swain's guards managed to trigger Briar's pillory and restore her restraint, enabling them to transfer her to their holding facility.
And just
Alone
keep her
in
locked
her cell,
up.
Briar could focus on nothing except her hunger. Though she couldn't die from starvation, the absence of blood weakened her day by day. At first, she thought the chorus of crazy wails echoing throughout her room were her own starving thoughts. Until she realized the sounds were drifting from unseen neighbors. Did Swain's forces manage to capture other living weapons during the coup?
I want to learn about the other living weapons.
Each having failed their mission, their purpose. The voices cried out for blood, a sentiment Briar could relate to. But what she couldn't understand wasn't how often they did it, nor how loud they were, but it was all they talked about. Their unrelenting hemomania was the most boring thing she had ever experienced. As hungry as Briar was, and she was hungry, her thoughts stayed focused on the pitiful sound of others. What if she managed to break out of the pillory? Would her frenzy make her even more unhinged than her neighbors? Would she become as single-minded and boring as them?
The she's like, I don't want to be like other girl demon assassin vampires.
She resigned herself to listless solitude. Years passed, and the time alone allowed Briar to reflect on herself and consider the possibilities of the world outside her cell. Entertainment consisted of eavesdropping on the guards' conversations, devising new ways to pester them from raw meat, and agonizing over whether she should raise her pet spiders or eat them. By chance, while she was going with her pillory one day, she inadvertently loosened the hemolith, which settled into a position just short of unlocking the restraint.
Really?
Briar froze as thoughts of her hemomaniacal neighbors filled her head. Is that what she had become? But then she realized something. Being under control was just as dangerous as being out of control.
Also,
she
being trapped
sucks.
sucks.
The balance. Having discovered the hemolith mechanism, Briar devised a plan. By this point, the guards were so used to her calls for attention that when she learned one of them close to her cell, nobody noticed he was missing until it was too late. The guards surged within her, lighting a fire that had been waiting to spread. Now the living weapon gleefully roams the streets of Noxus, pillory locked back in place, until
she just roams around Noxus until she needs a snack.
Outside, with the Black Rose monitoring an unexpected development, Briar eagerly learns all she can, making new friends and discoveries in a world she is starving to experience.
It's kind of cool. She's like, she both wants the blood, but also like connection and interests and like hobbies.
Few stories that we've been getting. I assume this is a result of Riot restructuring everything they are doing, and they really need to start planning things ahead. But since they are not really moving forward yet, unless they are actually planning things for their other games, it wouldn't make too much sense for them to start massively expanding the story without anything to pay it off. So this kind of simple story is totally fine.
And it's good because you still get like such a cool character.
As you saw, all the teasers and the cinematics were part of her lore. The teasers showed what she was doing in Swain's prison, which was essentially chilling, just walking around.
Yeah,
then
just
it shows
vibing.
Her escape through the guard, and then the cinematic shows us how she got outside. And honestly, I really appreciate how well all of this is linked together. It is not just random
She
pieces
does like
that come
look
from
like
all
a
over the
human
place.
weapon, which
now,
is cool.
with that said, we do have to mention the splash art. You see, if the splash art is based on lore, it would have to be part of her first mission. As you now know, she was only ever sent on 2 missions. And in the second one, it was a Noxian civil war. But since you can see both Noxians and Demacians here, there is simply no other option. But here's the catch. She already has the pillory on her, which she only got after her first mission. Which means that this scene is just totally made up. It looks cool, but no one has any idea what is going on there.
It's just her sitting on some people.
Some people noticed that the runes on her pillory are similar to the runes on Riven's blade, which would absolutely make sense because, remember, both of these were made by the Black Rose. And lastly,
I want to learn more about Riven.
Also mentioned that there were other living weapons in the prison.
Yes,
with
that
her.
I'm interested
she heard
in them.
Their voices constantly. and one of them was constantly shouting and calling for blood. Well, we also know about one other construct who is also heavily related to blood. So unless Riot is teasing someone else, it is highly likely Scion, who was there in the prison with her and who annoyed her the entire time.
And is he a living weapon made by Noxus?
Further reinforced by the fact that Briar actually has voice lines.
Oh my god,
she even mentions how sad she is that he also escaped.
Interesting.
Oh, Scion, you escaped too? And you're here with me.
Meaning that Scion
I wish she called him boring.
Also had to be in prison with her.
Oh,
this is interesting because this would suggest that in the present days, Scion was captured by Swain's forces. He's not hidden somewhere beneath the Immortal Bastion by the Black Rose.
Not
Swain
like
knows about him,
Mordekaiser.
and it is possible that he has him locked up. This is a seemingly random thing to be mentioned in her story. So I wonder if Riot is planning something with it. Though at the pace
the big breakout
going, maybe it is a plan 10 years into the future for the MMO. But that's really all I wanted to mention. Overall, Briar's story is really cool. It is nothing crazy,
I mean, and the cinematic was also fantastic.
It even has some nice cameos from other champions. And even though Vladimir wasn't directly included
I talked about him.
Don't worry, she does have a voice line with him.
Oh, what is it?
So, you want me to call you Vlad or Dad?
No! Is that really how it works? Because he's also the blood magic guy? Ooh, interesting. Okay. I liked learning a bit. It was cool because I didn't know anything about like when she was locked up. So learning that was cool. And having the like extra bit on Noxus is a very interesting place. I still go back and forth between do we like this place or like the invading and all the capturing sucks, but like some of the people, like the characters that spawn there are very interesting. Maybe it's we don't like the place, but it's an interesting place. But I was gonna say, isn't it like directly kind of like always butting heads with Noxus? But we not Noxus, Demacia, but we don't like Demacia either because they're all magic racists. We just like Ionia. That's where I'm gonna lie that because I sometimes also forget about the other places and what they're called. But we're gonna go into
so far, people seem to really like the design and the gameplay of Neferi.
I like the
which
design.
Is really strange.
It's very cool.
I haven't seen people this united since the release of Set, which was in 2020. A few days ago,
everyone likes Set probably because they're horny, right?
And it seems to be doing a good job at explaining the story. But it leaves out some context and some really important details.
Yes. And I feel like I've heard
the context
him talk about
is
it a
what
couple of
drives
times.
The entire character. Especially since in her current state, Neferi is not really doing much for the universe. So before we dive into Neferi's lore, let me first give you a quick TLDR on what Neferi even is.
Yeah.
Long time ago, in the deserts of the southern continent, we got the Shuriman Empire, which built the giant sun disk in the middle of their capital city. The sun disk had the power to reflect
It'd be funny if he just like reused his like past videos to explain this stuff.
Transformed them into the Ascended God Warriors, which were a lot more powerful humans who also shared appearance with some animals. The theory is that even though the magic comes from the Celestials, it seems like some animals on Runeterra are shaped after celestial gods.
Oh, interesting.
That could be the reason why, for example, Nasus and Renekton are a dog and a crocodile. Anyway, after years and years of creating more and more of the Ascended, the Shurimans got an entire golden army, which was easily able to conquer the entire world. And so they slowly started expanding their territory. At least that was until they faced the kingdom of Icathia in the south. The Icathians, led by the mage king Aksamuk, were not willing to just give up their land.
I feel like I haven't heard about this.
When the Shuriman armies arrived at their doorstep with the Ascended in the front lines, the Icathians fought with everything they got. But it still wasn't enough, so in the end they had to use their last resort, which meant using magic to rip open a rift so they could use the power of the void against the Shuriman.
I knew that. I didn't know that extra bit of context.
Didn't know that the void would literally destroy everything it touched.
Yeah, they're not really choosing sides for the Earth people.
The void rift, the maddening power of the Void was unleashed upon Runeterra.
God, the
And of
Void's
course,
cool.
after everything was
Scary,
turned into a
but
purple
cool.
wasteland, the Shuriment retreated. But at that point, it was already too
Vel'Koz.
late. And many of the surviving Ascended started going a bit mad after the Void touched their minds.
You
Thankfully,
could
the
imagine.
glorious Emperor Azir was a good leader.
Azir.
Under his wings, the Ascended stayed united as they clung onto their sanity. At least, that was until the moment Azir got assassinated.
Yeah.
And suddenly, the maddening Ascended were left on this world without a leader that could keep them in check.
And they just
so,
do
very
whatever.
quickly, these glorious Ascended started turning against each other as they tried to figure out who should be the next leader.
Because they were all
What
going
didn't
for
help the
power.
situation is that around this time, there was an Ascended called Zolani, who started toying with blood magic.
Such an
And she
interesting
figured out
character
that
that
this
I've heard
blood
about a little
magic
bit from
could help
Necrit.
out the situation. Now, this next part I'm going to mention was never fully confirmed, but people were able to piece a lot together through Legends of Runeterra, which is indeed canon. As far as we know, Zolani gave the other Ascended blood magic with the promise of power. It was an easy bait since at this point all the Ascended were fighting for power anyway.
Yeah,
but
to
in
be
reality,
the leader.
Zolani cursed everyone with it because she wanted to use the blood magic to control all the Ascended and so she could make them stop fighting each other. So in theory, she was actually the good guy.
Yeah, she
but
was
of course,
trying her
the other
best.
Ascended very quickly realized that Zolani betrayed them, so they broke out of her control, and suddenly all the glorious Ascended were now infused with really powerful blood magic.
Yes.
They went mad over power, they became known as the Darkin, and all together they started the Great Darkin War. This war absolutely annihilated a massive part of all continents. It got so bad that eventually a celestial known as the Aspect of Twilight, who at the time was known as Maisha, who would later become Zoe, had to come down from the heavens and use a legendary blade known as the Chalikar to reflect the power of the moon into the Darkin and seal their souls inside the blade. But of course, Maisha was still just a single vessel of the Aspect of Twilight.
Yeah.
She would never be able to catch all the Darkin on her own. So she gave the legendary blade to the mortal blacksmiths, so they could learn from it and craft more celestial weapons.
So they could trap
and with the help of the celestial magic, the mortals could seal the Darkin inside these weapons themselves.
Oh, cool.
Unfortunately, not only does it seem like over time this knowledge got lost, but also, while touching the Chalikar doesn't infuse Sivir with the power of the Darkin, it seems like the weapons crafted by the mortals are not as powerful. And so when a mortal touches one of these other sealed Darkin, the Darkin can immediately dominate their mind and take over their bodies. So for example, when someone picked up Aatrox's blade, what you see there is not the real Aatrox. That's just the morphed body of a human who picked up the blade.
Cool.
In case you are curious about this entire part in the story, it was all explained in the story called The Twilight of the Gods.
Twilight of the Gods.
That should be a TLDR version of the Shuriman story, even though it wasn't really that short.
No, it was good though. So I feel like you filled in gaps that I didn't know before.
She slowly went mad alongside with everyone else, and she got infused with blood magic, after which she got eventually sealed inside a dagger. From that point on, she was just waiting for anyone to touch the blade so that she could free herself.
Take over. Yeah.
That's all you really need to know. So now, let's dive right into Neferi's
learn
story,
about a dog.
and let's see how well she fits into this universe.
In the pitch-black Shuriman night, few sounds are as terrifying as the howls of the Dune Hounds. Those who hear their piercing call on the wind know to keep their hand on their sword hilt and their horse well rested. For the ravenous specks that rove these sands will chase whatever game they can find in the desert. One pack in particular is driven by a hunger deeper and more ancient than that of any mere beast. It is the hunger of a creature who spent ages eating nothing at all. For centuries, Neferi remained in a crypt, her spirit bound to an ancient throwing dagger, unable to move or speak. The weapon lay inert as her soul pondered the past.
You could just
Naafiri
look at that
was
one
powerful,
eye.
having almost let the dark in. How easily could she have bested any of them in combat and became the rightful ruler?
But now
Yet,
she's
how
a dagger.
easily she had been tricked by that awful aspect Maisha.
Oh my god.
And cursed
Zoe's
to
so much
embody
cooler
these
now.
inanimate steel blades. Shame and regret consumed her thoughts. If she could get another chance, if she could only find another host, a new vessel, all she needed was a hand to grip her blade.
Do all the
Just a
legends
touch.
speak?
At last, the day came and the doors of her tomb
I'm just
burst
thinking,
open.
Neferi speaks,
She
right?
sensed the sweet relief of a fresh desert wind, her first in ages, and something else, a human presence.
Oh, and
He
she
has
wanted a
come,
person
my
to take
host,
over.
my sweet unwitting vessel, thought the darkened soul. But the visitor was aware of her magic. He carefully
Oh.
picked up her dagger with metal thongs and placed it into a thick lead-lined cloth.
Yeah, he
Wrapping
wouldn't
the
let
blade
anyone
tightly,
touch it.
he took great care not to touch it and set off across
Smart.
the desert
Smart
under
guy.
the late afternoon sun. Despair overcame Naafiri as she felt the puddling movements of the man's horse across the sands. Was she doomed to
interesting.
this form? This waking nightmare of impotence? For eternity? She felt the steps of the horse quickening as the sunset approached, and sensed the distant howls of the dune hounds carried
And she's
by
like,
the wind.
yeah, you know what? I'll
This
take
was her opportunity.
whatever I
Without
can.
sound or
If I have
word,
to get a
the
body, a
Darkin
dog will
called
do.
out to the beasts, hoping to bring them to this prey, that he might somehow slip. Just a glancing touch of his hand, and the host would be hers.
Oh.
Then she could use him to fulfill the ambitions she had held for so long, and vanquish her regrets. The hounds appeared, salivating with their teeth bared. Naafiri's
'Cause they
scepter
wanted to
clung
eat
to
the
wrapped
horse and the
dagger with
person.
one arm, keenly aware what would happen if it came loose. With his other arm, he drew his sword and attempted to defend himself from the
Oh
pack.
god. But it's a
Jaws
whole
snapped
pack.
at the man and his horse from all sides, tearing them, devouring them piece by piece
Oh,
until
Jesus.
nothing remained. Not even the blade. Naafiri felt the world crash into focus as she became overwhelmed by senses. For
Oh,
the first
gosh.
time in ages, she smelled the dry air which parched her nostrils.
Did they
The
all
metallic taste
break
of hot
her
blood
up?
still coated her mouth. She could see each of the dogs as if from the eyes of a separate packmate. Confusion set in as she felt her sense of self crumble away. She had
Interesting.
become the Dune Hounds. Not one of them,
Plural.
but the entire pack.
She
Her
became
mangled dagger
plural.
embedded within the body of each dog. It seemed a
Oh.
cruel irony. She had found not one vessel, but dozens.
But many.
And none
Many
of them were
dog
useful in
vessels.
her grand ambitions. She resented the hounds, hated their smell, their fleas, and most of all, their need for
Ooh,
companionship.
you'd think if you were a
But in
Darkin,
time,
you'd get rid of the
Darkin's
fleas.
bitterness subsided as she began to grasp the true nature of her hosts. Though feral, their collective thoughts formed a wisdom all its own. Separately,
And like,
the
it's
dogs
pretty cool
would
to be
starve.
multiple.
Together, they were an apex predator, feasting or whatever game they fancied. There were no individuals. The pack was the entity that dominated all.
You practically
Naafiri realized
became
this
a hive
concept
mind.
was not limited to the dune hounds. It applied to fish, ants, and humans. It even applied to Darkin. She thought again of her past. Personal grudges and petty agendas staring the Darkin asunder, which in turn toppled them from their rightful place as the regnant killers of Runeterra. She knew how to restore them. Now, she just needed to find her siblings and share with
Ooh,
them
the more of the
wisdom
Darkin?
of the pack.
The wisdom of the pack.
So, that was it for the story.
Yeah,
I have to
it's
say,
so
my
cool.
first impression is that it is a good story.
I don't know how they
but
broke
it feels
the dagger.
a little bit like it was rushed out. I like how she called out to the hounds to free herself. Not because she wanted the hounds to pick
Yeah,
up the blade.
she wanted
but
the
because
guy
she
to
wanted
accidentally
the
do
raider
it.
to pick up the blade and defend himself.
Yeah.
Which resulted in a really cool twist. But here, some people don't like the fact that the hounds actually just ate the dagger. One
Well-
could wonder, why would a dog do that? But from my
It's also
point of
confusing
view,
how the dagger split.
was literally infused with flesh. I'm not that surprised a hungry dog bit into it.
Yeah.
Also, some people don't like the part where the blade shattered when the dogs picked it up.
That is just more confusing.
The Darkin weapons are supposed to be indestructible. But here, I don't believe the story is trying to tell us that the blade actually broke. But instead, it got fragmented for all the different vessels. So, similar to something like the Black Blade which Riven has. Even when it's split into shards, the blade is not truly broken. So I'm fine with that part too. To me, I didn't like when the story said that Naafiri was really powerful and that she almost let the Darkin. Because truth be told, we already have some really powerful Darkin.
Oh, so we're just adding more and more Darkin.
Balkux, you name it.
Balkux.
Just not Rast. He's a really wimpy one. Giving us another ridiculously powerful Darkin is kinda pointless at this point. Although I do think I understand why they try to give her this powerful trope. It's because they are probably trying to justify the fact that she was able to take over more than just one vessel. So overall, the story is good, but she does feel a bit unnecessary for the overall lore that we got. Although, I have to say, I love the fact that her lore is basically explaining what happened in the cinematic. I like how the two forms of media feed into each other. Lastly,
I love the blades from the dog.
Some kind of a setup for the future. Because the story did mention that she wants to unite all the Darkin to fulfill some
It's an interesting.
kind of
I bet the dogs leading the
but at this
Darkin.
point we really have no idea what it is. Speaking of which, it is sad that the story did entirely just ignore Zolani, who is responsible for the entire bloody curse of the Darkin. And in general,
I wonder if
kind of
we're
feel
gonna
like
see
another Darkin that
Zolani
is
in the
just
future.
trying to be important. Whether she's gonna succeed at that, we'll see. The good news is that people really like her design and her gameplay.
The design is cool.
It is all quite refreshing, and it definitely feels like a good old champion from 2016. The fact that she is actually a champion concepted in 2014 is a topic for another time.
Oh my god. I mean, granted, I've never played her, so can I say that much? Absolutely not. But very cool design, and it's just I like Zolani. Seems like a very interesting character that I really like learning more about and seeing when he talks about them in like different points. So it's very cool to like see that, and I think the Darkin are like a very like the Darkin are just. They're cool. Scary, but cool. And, like, I want to learn more about them, even though I feel like even he referenced this other, like, big Darkin that I'd never seen before, which is cool. I just, like, all the different, you learn about the Darkin. I'm like, I'd love to learn more. And then, like, the Void creatures, I want to learn more. It's really fun when you get this bit, and then you just want to keep, like, going and learning more of them. And now we have, who is Renata Glask?
Well, even though Zeri pretty much just came out, all the leaks got confirmed as Renata Glask got revealed.
Renata Glask.
Of course, if you paid attention to Zeri's story, you know that Renata was teased there. That's why these two are coming out so close together. They seem to be linked.
It's cool. It's all
and
like
so, without further ado, let's ignore how the internet is on fire because people read her abilities, and let's see if she finally sets Shimmer into the canon universe, as we dive into the bio of Renata Glask. Super quickly before we get to that, we should also mention the ads. You see, so cool. Originally, Renata was teased in a really unique way. If you visited Riot's websites, or any other website that was related to one of Riot's products, you could see pop-up ads that talked about Glask Industries.
Oh really?
That's
hilarious.
Really clever. You'll see how well
that's
it
amazing.
Champion. Anyway, this website revealed that Glask Industries is offering two product lines.
Perfume?
There is the luxury line, which has captivating fragrances, self-defense solutions, and augmented limbs. But they also have the diffusion line. Here we can find their more affordable chemtech, which includes filtration for masks, replacement limbs, and medical alchemy. They also have our story section. Here they mention that they started with a dream to make chemtech affordable. And that they donated hundreds of breathers to victims of a chemical fire.
So you could
remember this. And lastly, they mentioned that now they are trying to expand into Piltover 2.
Did they start
then there is
the fire?
also the Our Founder section, but we don't need to read that one, because everything there will be in the bio.
Yeah.
So now, let's get into that.
Renata Glask.
Life had not always been good for Renata Glask. Her parents were brilliant alchemists, focused on innovations for the healing arts. Dedicated to their work and their community in Zone, they gave their care and their cures to anyone in need, regardless of whether their patients could afford them.
Yeah.
Renata grew up accustomed to going to bed hungry, resentful of her parents' ideology, yet powerless to change her circumstances. She dreamed of the ships that sailed through Piltover's Sun-Built Canal, imagining herself taking the wheel and steering her life into a new direction, toward the riches of the world. When she was old enough to join the family business, it was quickly discerned that Renata had no aptitude for alchemy. She did, however, have ideas about turning a profit.
And
in her first sales pitch, Renata convinced her parents that they wouldn't need to ask anything more than people could give if they started treating wealthier Zonites. With loyal patients extolling the Glask's talents to their betters, their charity work was soon paid for by the rates Renata set for the rich. Instead of living comfortably, however, the Glasks spent that money developing a highly refined chemtech formula to extend the lives of their sickest patients. No matter what they did, the formula always had unwanted side effects.
Is that like her undying ability?
Patients extremely suggestible or extremely violent. So they continued to try and improve their work.
Extremely violent, like her
Renata,
ult.
bitter at what their parents chose to do with the money she had earned them, wondered if the formula could be useful as is. Up in Piltover, the elite clan leaders who had been making money off of Zonite medical stopgaps heard whispers of the Glask family's research. Not willing to let anything threaten their bottom line, they paid off a handful of enforcers to take care of it.
Raid them.
Renata woke up to the sound of their parents' screams as her home burned down around them.
Oh, fuck.
She lost her arm, trying and failing to save them. With only her family name and the scraps of research that survived the fire, Renata swore to avoid her parents' mistakes of thankless altruism. Instead, she threw herself into building her meager inheritance into something bigger. Something that could give her everything she had never had. Something that would give her money and power and control.
An empire.
An empire. As the years passed,
oh my god,
she became the brains
I'm a
behind several
lawhead.
successful small-time operations, while building relationship with unsavory but influential individuals throughout the city. She would give people jobs, lend them money, and give them medicine for their sick children, but never for free. If they couldn't pay the coin, she demanded their loyalty. Renata quickly realized that genius was the rarest and most lucrative commodity in Zone, and devised a plan to invest in destitute youths with talent for innovation. She offered them space to work and stability for their families in exchange for their work in perpetuity. The poorest among them couldn't afford to say no. Renata found herself with plentiful access to new and unique product designs, and novel uses for the chemical formula that was her parents' legacy.
Because she has the money.
Soared.
Oh, that's so
smart. She then
smart.
established Glask Industries. After purchasing the first of what would eventually be dozens of factories to manufacture her high-end chemtech products. Glask Industries quickly expanded across Zone, from chemtech mining operations to dance halls to refineries, angering some barons who had held monopolies over the ventures.
Because she was
one
growing
by
too
one,
quickly.
Renata persuaded them all to go into the business with her. And just like that, Renata quietly managed to become a chem baron in her own right. And no one could push back for fear of upsetting their own cash flow. While Glask Industries flourished, Renata herself remained in the shadows, waiting for the right time to make her next move. That time came after a chemical accident sent poisonous fumes sweeping through the streets of Zone, leaving the city in the worst state in decades. Amidst the noxious grey clouds, Glask Industries offered basic breathers and replacement filters to everyone in the city for free.
For free.
Now,
for loyalty,
everyone in Zone knew of Renata Glask and her benevolence. She had earned Zone's loyalty. Word of her generosity swept through Piltover as well. For the first time, shopkeepers looked seriously at Renata's elegant and ultra-refined Chemtech designs.
Yeah, all the high-end
stuff. Lined their shelves with her products.
Cool.
Now, every fashionable Piltover owns at least one Glask Industries product. And the wealthiest among them vie to sit beside Renata at novelty galas and the opera.
She gets invited.
But Renata's plan was never to be a cam baron in Zone, or the corporate dartling of Piltover. No,
she wants it all.
She aims to take Piltover's source of financial power for herself. The Sungate
cool
she had dreamed of so often in her youth. For she who controls the
Gotta follow your dreams. Gotta follow your dreams.
Of trade. And she who controls the trade controls the world.
Yeah,
with
and all its money.
Her parents' Chemtech formula embedded in every Glask product in both Piltover and Zone, ready to be released at her command. Side effects and all. It's only a matter of time before everyone works for Renata Glask.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
And that
Holy
was
shit.
her bio. As always, we immediately have multiple things to talk about.
Yes?
The story mentions how she started by making young people work for her. This is essentially what was referenced in Zeri's story. There are factories where she's essentially forcing people into working for her.
Yes.
And so Zeri is there for the rescue.
Yeah,
I like how the bio also mentioned the chemical disaster. This is the same event that forced Victor into creating Blitzcrank, so that Blitzcrank could save people down in the toxic fumes. Yeah. And it is the same event that led into the corruption of Oriana's body. So it's awesome to see that Renata's story pays attention to already established events.
Now I need to learn more about all these things.
Then there is the setup for the future.
Everything splits off.
Every product Renata Glask ever sold had the mind-corrupting chemical in it. So at any moment, Renata can let all the royalty of Zone and Piltover go into frenzy. And
crazy.
I assume, just like it happens in-game, she can unleash pure chaos as everyone starts killing each other. This seems to be a really cool loose thread, which would eventually lead into a story of its own. But I don't think this story could be explored in a one, since, you know, the Void is still coming. But above all of
Void
this,
is a very big
did you notice
issue.
the main thing of this story? The reason why I was so excited to read the bio in the first place? Her entire bio doesn't mention Shimmer in a single word.
Oh.
It has to be Shimmer, right? Everything is green, this is purple. Why are you doing this to me, Riot?
Yeah. We want to know more. She is such a funny... it makes me want to just, stop doing everything I am doing and, go play Renata Glask. Because all her voice lines are so cool too and, poignant.
And we are back in Legends of Runeterra. This game will never stop amazing me with the world building it does for League. Every time a new champion comes out, we get some amazing new background.
Fantastic.
But this time, the lore that we got with the release of Aphelios won't be the deepest. And hopefully nor will this be the longest. However, there will be a lot of references and cool new mysteries regarding his weapons.
I would like to
his
learn.
Sister, Alune. Now, if you don't know Aphelios' story, it is honestly not that long. And our year-old video covering it is still 100% canon.
Fantastic.
So if you want,
maybe
you can
I'll have to
watch that video first.
And
if you have already seen it, but you just don't remember the details, don't worry, I will remind you all the important things as we go along.
He is so good.
Ado,
we
let's
thank
have a look
Necrit
at the
so much
cool
for all the
new
amazing
info
work he
we got
does,
on
because, to just learn
As
about
it
all
tends
this stuff
to be
is
with all
great.
champions, the description of Aphelios' card is someone else describing him. With every conflict, we show the Solari we are worthy of respect.
Oh,
we
is he
have
part of the
taught them that
Solari?
The Moonlight is equal to
the Lunari.
We have taught them to not disregard that which they did not know, and of the lessons they are yet to learn. The words of a Lunari Waynespeaker. Now, of course, this is referencing the fact that to this day, Targon is still dominated by the Solari. The Lunari are still mostly living in hiding. However, with the newest moon cycle, the legendary Maris Omegnum was revealed with a display of lights. The Maris Omegnum is a mystical Lunari temple. But unfortunately, because it's shown like a beacon, the Solari saw it, they all went there, the Lunari tried to fight them back, and in the end it was Alune who stepped into the temple and used her magic to push it back into the spirit realm. Now, if you don't remember the stuff about Maris Omegnum,
It is a temple that sits in the spirit realm, but once in a lifetime it pops into the physical realm. There it allows only one person to step inside,
once every 100 years?
And then it phases out again. And of course, the last one to step in was Elune.
And
so
would
right
you be
now,
trapped there?
Elune is inside the spirit realm, inside the Maris Omegnum.
She's stuck
we'll
there.
talk about this more in just a second. The leveled up version of Aphelios doesn't have a major description. It just talks about how Aphelios and Elune will be the ones to show the Solari the worth of the Lunari faith. Then there is Gift from Beyond, which shows us Elune in the spirit realm. Of course, this is the card that offers Aphelios his weapons. So, let's dive into those. Unfortunately, none of the descriptions we get for these weapons have any real meaning. It is just a short quote, usually a pun from Elune. But here we have Calibrum,
she's a jokester,
which is represented by this little twin blade icon. Severum, a fang-like blade that is represented by the half moon behind it. Gravidum, represented by the almost eclipsed moon. Infernum, represented by celestial fire. And Crescendum, which doesn't actually have its own icon. But just remember the setting around it. It is in a pool of some kind of water with candles floating around it.
Like a ritual.
The scene will return later. Now, under normal circumstances, these weapons wouldn't have much value for us. But they do get insane value for the world building once we get into the other cards which Aphelios got. Here, I have to start with the Veiled Temple. This shows us for the first time the inside of the Maris Omegnum.
And all the weapons around.
Temple. The description says, "It is here in the spirit realm that Elune communes with her brother, Aphelios. It is she who speaks words to comfort the silent assassin, and who reaches through the veil to hand him his weapons of retribution."
Interesting.
Couple of interesting things to point out here. First of all, up until now, we have only seen Elune from Aphelios' perspective. That's why she always looked ghastly, since that's just how he sees her through their mind link. But since they are linked with their minds, of course it would work the other way too. So just like Aphelios can see Elune through the veil, Elune can see Aphelios through the veil as well. That's why she can also see him as a ghastly spirit. This is a brilliant reference to how Aphelios works. The other thing I want to point out here are the weapons around.
Yes,
here we can
sitting
see
on the giant pillars.
Crescendum, Gravidum, and the last one will be Severum. We will get to these individually, but notice how they are represented by different animals. Calibrum is a crane, Gravidum is a ram, Severum is a saber-tooth, and I am not exactly sure what Crescendum is.
A shark?
Whatever it is, it's there. And
looks like some sort of
get
fish.
Even more meaning from the other cards. The first one being the flight. Mother Moon, give me confidence.
The crane.
Fill me with the flight's conviction. Set me on my path. Of course, the flight is a celestial being. And if you have a look at its head, you may see that this celestial made Calibrum. In each of the cards which we are about to dive into, you will see Elune performing some kind of ritual in which she is channeling the power of these celestial beings into the weapons. Which means that this entire time, Elune was channeling her magic to give Aphelios weapons empowered by the Celestials.
That's so cool.
But the interesting thing about this is that these celestial beings are willingly helping the Lunari. So this made me wonder if there are counterparts for the Solari.
Magnus
of course,
Opus.
there are cards such as the Twin Sisters, one representing the moon and one representing the sun. It would make sense if each of these made her own celestial pets, and those would be these animals. But right now I wonder if these Celestials specifically are helping the Lunari because they don't like the Solari, or because they know that the Lunari are suppressed and they want to restore balance. Either way, this is quite the reveal, so let's have a look at the other ones.
Yes,
then there are the Sky Shadows. Mother Moon, allow me to
remember the fish.
That though I stand in
they look like the fish from the other one, that has what they have to be.
These Sky Shadows represent the Crescendum. You can see them reflecting in the same pool which the Crescendum
which was the animal above them.
What is interesting to see here, besides the fact that these kinda look void-like, is that
they
this
look like
pool
koi.
Also reflects these planetary objects which look like moons. Now, I don't think these are actual reflections of the moon, because we know how the moon works on Runeterra. Runeterra actually has two moons, which together make one whole. There is the physical moon, which mortals can see when they look at the night sky.
Interesting.
But there is also the second moon, which you can only see in the spirit realm. These two moons orbit at different paces.
And it is once they perfectly line up that the Merus Omegnum is revealed. If you want to dig even deeper into this, Aphelios and Elune mimic the behavior of the moon. One is in the physical realm and the other in the spirit realm. The reason why I wanted to point this out is because this reflection shows us more than just the two forms of the moon. So these planets are something beyond Runeterra and its moons. And interestingly enough, you can see the same planets behind some of the other Celestials. These are most likely just cool celestial backgrounds. But maybe this is a hint at the fact that Runeterra is not the only planet filled with life which the Celestials care about. This is something that was originally teased years ago, that one time Aurelian killed a pantheon. Either way, we are not exactly sure what these creatures are, but they are responsible for empowering the Crescendum. Then there are the Fangs. Mother Moon, show me the way. Tear the sky open. Show me beyond.
These are beautiful.
Here we can see the Sabertooth statue, in front of which we can see Elune empowering the Severum. And this art reveals why Severum looks like a fang. Yeah. It's because it is perfectly mimicking the fang of the
Sabertooth Celestial.
And lastly, there is the Cloven Way. Mother Moon, our night is set. May we hold those who would harm us.
That ram's got like a whole planet in itself.
And here we can see the process of Elune empowering the weapon in detail. You can see that when the weapon is not empowered by the Celestials, it is just an empty shell of moonstone. And it is only once Elune channels the Celestials into these weapons that they actually get their full form. And in the other card linked to this, we have a closer look at the ram. The Solari did not believe that another light could blind, a lesson the Lunari would readily teach.
Interesting.
Unfortunately, we did not get a card explaining the empowerment of Infernum. It is very likely that Riot avoided this card,
I want another one.
That they can add it in as a Targonian card in the future.
Yeah,
so right now, we don't know which Celestial empowers the Infernum. Now, if we go back to the art representing the temple, I wonder why here the statues are actually just representing regular animals. They are not shaped like the Celestials at all. This makes me wonder if there is some really deep lore explaining the creation of life.
I guess the ram isn't.
Animals. Fantasy worlds tend to have some lore which explains how animals came to be. So I wonder if the animals on Runeterra were shaped in the image of the Celestials. And again, we know what made Crescendum, but I still have no idea what this statue is.
That's the fish.
Now before we leave the Merus Omegnum, we have to cover the last card which we likely got instead of the Inferno.
Yeah, its head and then its tail and its fin.
Which I believe is supposed to be another weapon which Elune is able to summon. You can see that it has the same aesthetic, and it is on the same pedestal as all the other weapons.
And it looks like a dog.
The icon is the one of the messenger, with the messenger of course being the celestial dog.
I was right.
I do believe that this reveals that Elune can also summon the Starbone and give it to Aphelios. Of course, she wouldn't do it because it is not the deadliest of weapons, but it should be in the arsenal. A decent proof of this being the case is the fact that when you use the Starbone with Aphelios in play, Elune has the same interaction with this card which she has for all the other summoned weapons.
Feel my embrace, Aphelios.
Honestly, I think it would be hilarious to see Aphelios bonk someone on the head with a bone.
I think it would too. Doink. Oh. Okay, so that one was like... Yes, I feel like I didn't know enough about Aphelios and his sister. I still probably don't even know enough about the Lunari and Solari, but it was so cool to see, and just seeing that art of the Celestials and learning all about them was fantastic. I love seeing it. I love all the art. Maybe I'll have to get into oh no, what was that game called? Legends of Runeterra? I'm pretty sure it's from the card game, but wow, it's just so interesting and so pretty to see. And then learning about Renetta was so fun, and seeing more about the Kembarans and Zorn and like Nefiri and the Darken and Briar and Noxus. That's why I really like going into these ones. And even when he explains like his TLDRs about stuff that even I have seen some stuff on, there's still bits that I've never heard him talk about, which is so interesting to hear. So I really like these like, who are these people or what is this? Because you just get to go so much more in depth and everything surrounding them. But the thing is, you like learn about one and you see them connected to someone else, and then they branch out and it just keeps going. So I can't wait to look at more, hopefully, about these ones. Yeah, if you like these sort of ones and this is more of the lore that it's fun to watch someone react to, do let me know. Or if you have any other suggestions of different Necrit videos, any other lore videos, any League of Legends stuff, do let me know in the comments below. But other than that, I just hope you enjoyed and are having a great day, and I hope to see you in the next one.